Haribo, Namaste, Krishna. Welcome to Bhagavad Gita 5:22. Maham Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Sira Swarupananda Paramahansa Iti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Sira Swarupananda Paramahansa Iti Namine Namo Sira Swarupananda Paramahansa Namine Gorakaru Swarupaya Radha Krishna Kristayate Namo Sira Swarupananda Paramahansa Namine Gorakaruna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Kristayate Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Pracharine Devasesha Sunyavadi Paskacha Deshatarine Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Pracharine Devasesha Sunyavadi Paskacha Deshatarine Devasesha Sunyavadi Paskacha Deshatarine Ajashi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudeva Bhaktivinoda Ajashi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Achashi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasudeva Bhakta-vrinda Achashi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Vasudeva Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nityananda, Nityananda, Gauranga, Gauranga, Nityananda, Nityananda, Gauranga, Gauranga, Nityananda, Nityananda, Gauranga, Gauranga, Krishna, Balaram, Radha, Madana Mohana, Radha Krishna, 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 Vrindavan, 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 Jai Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Jai Gurudev, Jai Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Jai Gurudev, Jai Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Jai Gurudev. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajika Satara Sarashishiman Jigakuru Siddhasarupananda Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajika Satara Satashishiman His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Gauda Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shasidi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Sako Ki Jai. Nitai Goswald Mission Ki Jai. Navadita Dhamma Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Gira Govardhani Ki Jai. Vrindavanam Ki Jai. Mathuradam Ki Jai. Mayapodam Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, Gaura Premanandi, Hare Hare Bol. Amagina Timarandasya Gana Gana Shalakaya Chaksurun Militanyena Tajmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Statpitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantekam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhi Vrindavanishari Rishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanshakapa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanan Pavenbhyo Vaishnavbhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. For speaking, first I offer my humble obeisances at the lotus feet of my spiritual master, Jagakuru Siddhaswarupananda Srila Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada is the mercy manifestation of Lord Chaitanya, and is very dear to Radha and Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are like wish-fulfilling trees, able to fulfill all the desires of the fallen living entities, are full of compassion upon them. Haribol, Namaste. Thank you so much for watching. So we're continuing Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, the chapter entitled Kama Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. And so we're continuing with our discussion on, a section of this chapter about liberation in this. Well, it's about liberation. Liberation is always in the Supreme. The word Krishna uses different words throughout this section, but Brahma Nirvana. So Nirvana means to snuff out like a candle. It's often used as a Buddhist term. The Buddhists use it as to merge into the nothingness, to cease existing. In the sort of voidist type philosophy. But Krishna is using the term to mean snuffing out this material life, not to cease existing, because of course, the two terms are used, Brahma Nirvana, so Brahma. So Brahma refers to the absolute truth, or it refers to spirit. So Brahma Nirvana means to become free of this material body and experience Brahman. In other words, like Aham Brahmasmi, I'm spirit. I'm spiritual in essence. So I'm Brahman. I'm a part and parcel, a spark of the Supreme Brahman, or the Brahma Jyoti, coming from the Supreme Brahman, the Para Brahman, O Krishna. So anyway, so this section is very much about liberation, and it begins, this section, text 16, begins with Krishna describing how one enlightened with knowledge sees everything as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. And then he gets to, then in the next verse he speaks about how this complete knowledge fully cleanses one of misgivings or doubts and you're able to proceed straight on the path of liberation. And he begins to describe a characteristic of someone who has this knowledge, by virtue of this true knowledge, a learned pandit, or a humble sage, as Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada has put it, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. So this person who has knowledge also then has equanimity, samatvam, this feeling of seeing everyone equally, seeing everyone as spiritual in essence. So not seeing higher and lower, right? In these different classes here, brahmana, and a dog eater. So there you have a learned and gentle brahmana. You have like the highest of society, and then you have a dog eater, an outcast, a swapakai, as low as it comes within the social system. But the learned, the gentle sage, one who has knowledge, sees them equally, seeing them as spirit soul. And then also even within species, in different cow, an elephant, a dog. Right? So these are different species. So seeing them as being equal to a brahmana. So someone who's established in this sameness and equanimity has already conquered the conditions of birth and death. And they're flawless like Brahman. And thus they're already situated in Brahman. And Krishna describes further their characteristics, that a person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant, nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, so knowing the self, unbewildered, and who knows the science of God, is to be understood as already situated in transcendence. Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure or external objects, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. So that was text 21, the text we studied last week. So a liberated person, they're not attracted to sense pleasure or external objects. So generally speaking, everyone in this world, we live for sense pleasure. And we live to obtain and acquire external objects, the objects of the senses. This is like the goal of life, or the purpose of life, to enjoy oneself. In other words, we see ourselves as the enjoyer, we see ourselves as the center, and we see others as existing for our enjoyment, for our exploitation. To the extent where, billions of animals are slaughtered every year because people want to eat them. I'm the central enjoying agent, and I like eating cows, so they can all get slaughtered at the slaughterhouse, and I'll eat them. This is like the mentality of someone who's in ignorance. They don't know the reality. They don't know that actually eating meat is causing a bad future for them. In the future they have to be slaughtered and eaten, under the subtle laws of karma. If we causing pain to others is just causing pain to ourselves, future pain to ourselves. And of course, if we're causing pain to others, well, we can't be happy. There's no happiness in hurting others. Some take some sort of perverted pleasure in hurting others, but this is, in reality, no one can be happy when they're causing pain to other living entities. Anyway, so the liberated person, or a person in ignorance, is attracted to material sense pleasure and external objects. Whereas the self-realized soul, the liberated person, enjoys unlimited happiness. So not limited, right? Material sense enjoyment is very limited. and it's transitory, lasts for only a moment, has a beginning and an end. Whereas spiritual happiness and pleasure, for a person who is self-realized, realizes his identity as spiritual in essence, then his happiness is coming from within. It's unlimited happiness. There's the happiness of self-realization, of actual realization of being spirit. So we can have this on an intellectual level. So a person may intellectually realize this, but still actually not be experiencing any bliss. Right? Sometimes people in spiritual life, we can get into a rut. We can kind of get stuck. Right? Like I'm following the 4 regulative principles. I've given up, illicit sex. I've given up meat eating. I've given up intoxications. I've given up gambling, and so I'm following the don'ts. Right? Don't do these certain kind of things, and I'm trying to control my senses, and I'm chanting Krishna's names, and I'm engaging in some kind of practical devotional service. But I haven't had a change of heart. So maybe I'm doing these things because I'm desiring liberation. I'm desiring freedom from material suffering. And so in other words, I'm still self-centered. So the paradox of spiritual life is that one actually experiences spiritual happiness and bliss when we're no longer concerned about our own happiness. So if I'm concerned about myself, then I'm not actually yet spiritually realized. I'm only concerned about my own happiness. I'm engaging in all these spiritual practices just for my own pleasure. So like there's, the living entity we're engaged in what's called mukti bhukti, or bhukti mukti. Right? We engage in bhukti, sense gratification. We're wanting to find happiness through material sense enjoyment. And, after a while we get burnt out. Like after how many lifetimes? So I used to give the example of like people in a theme park. Like there's people arriving in the theme park. And they're like, oh, wow, man, I want to go and get on the rides. When I go with, take the grandkids, right? You go to a theme park, or you take the kids, you go to a theme park, and it's like, oh, they're so excited. They want to go on all these different rides, and they want to, go on the Big Dipper, and they want to, go on all these different, the merry-go-round, depending on the age of the kids, right? All these kind of radical things, different levels of so-called enjoyment one can get on the rides. But of course, each of these rides are very short. They're transitory. You have to line up to get on it, then you finally get on it, and then it's like, oh, you just do it for a few minutes, and while you're doing it, you're screaming because it's so scary, going up and down on the Big Dipper, on the roller coaster, or sometimes they go upside down, so it's like all these things that are actually, when people on the things are just screaming the whole time because it's like scary. And but anyway, they know they're safe, or at least I hope they're safe. They hope that the ride isn't going to completely collapse and people get killed, which unfortunately sometimes happens. But anyway, so there's people, and they're trying to enjoy. But while they're trying to enjoy, there's all these different miseries that come along with it. But still, they tend to minimize the misery and focus on the good part. It's like when I used to, you go surfing. You sort of like there's a whole lot of austerity involved. First of all, you got to get to the beach, right? So if you don't live right on the beach, where you got to drive, somehow you got to drive to the beach. You got to go through the traffic. Then when you get there, there's, it's crowded, or maybe the wind's blowing the wrong way, so it's like, oh, the surf's not very good. Then you have to drive up and down looking for a better surf spot, hopefully where it's not too crowded. Then you got to get out of the car, then you got to put on your wetsuit, then you got to wax up your board. So you're going through all these different steps, and then you paddle out. It's hard work. You got to paddle out through the waves. Finally you get out there. Then you got to hassle for the waves. You got to fight for the waves, and you got to paddle just right. Got to be in just the right spot. Finally get yourself to your feet. You got to ride the wave. Each wave is very short. So anyway, you ride the wave, and then the wave's over, and you got to paddle back out again. Maybe you get wiped out while you're riding the wave. So anyway, you go through this process, right? So the amount of the actual pleasure is in catching the wave. It's a really nice experience, and of course you're out in the nice environment. You're out in nature, and the sun's shining, and you're in the ocean. So, there's nice experience. But the actual riding the waves is very short. And then after a while you get really tired, and you got to paddle in, or you get sunburnt. Anyway, so there's like this short period of pleasure, and we go seeking this pleasure. Like Prabhupada wrote the book, "Pleasure is the Goal." Pleasure is the goal of every living entity. So we're prepared to go through all kinds of austerity and hardship to get this little bit of pleasure. And so this is kind of like the motivation for most people. So anyway, back to the analogy of a theme park. So then it's like, there's people in there, and they're doing this. They're going through the austerity to get on the ride, and then they're having the pleasure of the ride. And then off the ride, right? They do that all day, and then after a while, they've had enough of it. I want to go home. Or you have like a little kid. You take little kids there, and they're so excited to get there, But then by the end of the day, they're tired, and maybe it's all too much, and they want to go. Right? So then, people are leaving. I've had enough. I want out of here. So like there's the desire for enjoyment, and then after a while there's the desire for liberation. I want out of here. I'm heading for the gates. How do I get out of here? Let me out. So this is the nature of the experience in the material world. Bhukti mukti. I want a certain amount of sense enjoyment, and then I want to get that comes with pain and suffering and hardships, so I want liberation. So this desire for liberation, it's like if there isn't a loving if you don't take it further than just sort of understanding I'm spiritual in essence, I'm not the body, unless you take it further, then it can become like, well, there's not really any pleasure there. It's kind of dry, when Lord Chaitanya was meeting with the Prakasananda Saraswati, the leading Mayavadi impersonalist, follower of Shankaracharya in Benares. So he meets with them, and Prakasananda Saraswati says to Lord Chaitanya, you're a sannyasi. What are you doing? This emotional, this chanting and dancing. What are you doing? This is not the business of a sannyasi. Sannyasi's business is to study Vedanta and to engage in meditation. So like this study of Vedanta, Vedanta is very difficult. It's like, Vedanta can mean the Vedanta Sutra, or also it means the Upanishads. It refers to the Upanishads, the Jnanakan section of the Vedas, the Upanishads, which are primarily sort of very kind of impersonal, talking about Brahman and Brahman realization. And so it can be like dry philosophy, or it is dry philosophy, right? Like studying. It's like very, intellectually challenging, and it's kind of dry. It's a bit like, Tushta used to give an example of like, sometimes we can be in this situation of being like a bee on the outside of the honey jar. Like the honey's in the jar, and the bee wants to get it. And his little tongue is going at it, trying to get at the honey, but he's not tasting the honey because it's on the other side of the glass, and so he's not able to taste it. So sometimes we can be like this, when we're not doing the don'ts, and we're doing a bunch of the do's, but we're not tasting this pleasure that Krishna is describing here, right? Krishna is describing enjoying pleasure within. A liberated person is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. Right? So maybe Krishna goes on the next couple of verses to describe it as even in more detail. The word I think we were talking about last week was sukha, happiness, right? This sukha. And so we're not experiencing that. So we need to look introspectively. Well, why is that? Why am I not experiencing that? This is like Lord Chaitanya's second prayer where he says, but I have, he basically says, but I have no attraction for the holy names, right? So but I have no attraction for them. It's like, well, why is that? It's because of anathas. Anathas, unwanted things in the heart and mind. So this, I've spoken on it before, but Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, put some effort into, in his Bhajana Rahasya, to analyze these anathas. What are these anathas? Of course, the human body is an anatha, but these anathas are like, our misunderstandings. Right? We don't know who Krishna is. We don't know who we are. We don't know the nature of this world. So we have like, misunderstandings. And we have, I forget the 4 categories. I could look them up. But anyway, the one that's most significant is the weaknesses of the heart. So these weaknesses of the heart. There's anathas, offenses to Krishna, offenses to the spiritual master, offenses to other living entities. Causing offenses keep us away from Krishna. Word for offenses is aparadas. And Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, who wrote a very nice book, The Heart of Krishna, Srila Prabhupada very much appreciated this book. Anyway, he described the etymology of the word aparada, and he defined it as being, the word apa means keeping away, and Radha. So offenses keep us away from Radha. Radha is the personification of devotional service, the master of devotional service who engages us in the service of Krishna. We need to be pleasing to Radha to be able to please Krishna. So anathas. So ignorance, not understanding who I am, who Krishna is, creating offenses, and desires for material sense enjoyment. Whatever level it may be, wanting to enjoy in this material world, or wanting to enjoy like the residents of the heavenly planets. These are anathas, these are unwanted desires that are keeping us from Krishna. Again, it's self-centeredness, and then weaknesses of the heart. lust and greed, envy. These things are keeping us from Krishna. So the chanting of the holy names of Krishna, like as Lord Chaitanya says in his first prayer, Chaito Darpana Marjanam. This chant, Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam, all glories to the Shri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for lifetimes. So this dust is like the anathas covering our heart that are keeping us from Krishna. And it's these anathas that are these unwanted things in our heart and in our consciousness that are keeping us from experiencing the bliss of the honey, like the bee on the outside of the honey. What the glass is really the anathas. This is what's keeping us from experiencing this spiritual bliss and happiness that Krishna is speaking of. So anyway, so that's what we should be aspiring for. And then Krishna then goes on in tonight's first text 22. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kuntī, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. Yehi samspasaja bhoga dukkha yanaya evate aja antavanta kanteya nate ramate buddhaha. Yehi samspasaja bhoga dukkha yanaya evate aja antavanta kanteya Nate su ramate buddhaha. So yea is those, or who or which he, certainly, indeed, truly, samspasajaha, by contact with the material senses, or born of touching, born of contact, bhogaha, enjoyment, pleasures, gratifications. So dukkha, distress, pain, misery, unhappiness. Yona yaha, sources of or wombs. So this the yona is the womb. So what things are born from. Eva, certainly indeed, te, they are they. So pleasures born of contact with the material senses. Are sources of pain or misery, unhappiness. So when we're trying to enjoy, right, how does it all begin? It begins with desire. I see something, I want it, right? Or, so I have this desire for material sense gratification. And this desire, can become all-consuming, like becomes lust, right? So of course, any selfish desire is karma or lust, right? But so this desire, it's like a craving, or it can become all-consuming, and it become addictive. Right? So like these desires, become, what Krishna is saying here. They become a source of misery, right? They become dukkha, a source of pain or misery or unhappiness, right? And so and they have a beginning or an end. Aja anta vantaha. So subject to having a beginning and an end. Like adi is in the beginning, or the beginning, commencement. Anta is the end, and vantas, having, which in, tending toward, and Kantaya, son of Kuntī. So, there's sources of misery, for different reasons. But firstly, like, it's temporary. We are eternal, and we're only going to be happy or satisfied with eternal happiness, which is what this finding pleasure within, due to our relationship with Krishna and realization of my true spiritual identity. This is eternal happiness. It continues after the death or end of this body. But material sense enjoyment only is temporary, only lasts at most for as long as the length time allotted for us to be in this body. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada says, material sense pleasures are due to the contact of the material senses, which are all temporary, because the body itself is temporary. A liberated soul is not interested in anything which is temporary. He also says, therefore those who are true yogis or learned transcendentalists are not attracted by sense pleasures, which are the causes of continuous material existence. The more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more he is entrapped by material miseries. So this desire for sense pleasure, is the cause of, as Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada says, of continuous material existence. Like these desires, desires are a part of our subtle body. Right? So our subtle body is comprised of desires. And these desires, of course, along with other things, emotions and feelings and thoughts and so on. But anyway, so like desires are actually, become like the shape of our subtle body. And the way we desire to enjoy in different ways takes us to our next body, like through the process of reincarnation, like the shape of our subtle body. As Prabhupada explains in his lectures, like the subtle body, we have the subtle body, and then the gross physical body is shaped around it based upon what kind of desires we have, how I like to eat, how I like to have sex enjoyment, how I like to, what I like to see, what I like to do, what kind of sensual pleasures I like. Do I like pleasures in the mode of ignorance, or do I like pleasure in the mode of passion, or am I a mode of goodness type person? Right. So according to our desires, we create our future body. So these desires, these self-centered desires, these desires to enjoy this world actually keep us bound within this world. This is what's keeping us here. It's like ropes or chains tying us to this material world, binding us to this material world. So, first of all, when we have a desire, there's always like there's what's called the threefold anxieties. There's the desire, or the anxiety of, will I get it? I want something. I want some kind of sense pleasure. Am I going to get the ice cream to eat? Or am I going to get the beautiful woman? Am I going to get the job I want? Am I going to get the car I want to get? Is my horse going to win in the race? Whatever it is that we have desire for, there's anxiety there. Will I get it? And to get it, I have to go through all kinds of hardship, endeavor, right? All kinds of effort is involved. The effort to achieve the goal. Like you can't just But you can't achieve anything by being inactive. If you're just inactive, like if you just sit on the chair, well, you're not going to get anything. You're not going to get fed. You're not going to get dinner. Right? You're not going to get any money. You know, if you don't want to make any effort, then you're not going to get anywhere in life. Right? It's the same in spiritual life. You've got to make effort. Right? In fact, this, you know, as I think talking here about effort, you know, in the Mahabharata is the constant debate amongst the Pandavas as to whether it's effort that matters or is it destiny. You know, so like they're always sort of feeling, are we experiencing, like as the Pandavas are going through all kinds of hardship, all these bad things are happening to them, you know. And so they're sort of debating, is it destiny that's created this, or is it, you know, my own activity, right, through my own efforts, right? So am I going to experience happiness as a result of destiny or as a result of my own happiness, you know? Or so this is like a raging debate. In fact, in Bhagavad Gita, of course, it's still ongoing. But, you know, in chapter 18, text, I think it's 11, you know, Krishna describes the 5 factors of action. And one of the factors is Daivi, you know, which is providence, destiny. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada translates it as the Paramatma, right? The Lord in the heart, right? Is awarding us the results of our activities. You know, but it's also the place of the action and also the endeavor, the effort. Right, so we have to make effort. So anyway, so in the context of what I'm talking about here, and to experience sense enjoyment, we have to engage in effort. So there's all kinds of work and struggle and endeavor, right? And then and while we're engaged in that effort, there's always a concern: will I succeed? Right? Will I get what I want? Will I win? You know, like right now in America, there's this huge presidential contest going on. Candidates having to make huge amounts of effort. And while they're making the effort, there's still the anxiety, will I lose or will I win? Okay, so then, you know, as a result of this effort and destiny and the other factors of action as Krishna analyzes them, then it's like, oh, I got it. Wow, this is awesome. Okay, I got it. You know, but then you know, it's not satisfying me. Even though I got it, I'm still not satisfied because I'm spiritual in essence. Attaining something material doesn't satisfy me. But not only that, then I get an anxiety. Am I going to lose it? And I got the relationship with the beautiful girl. But is she going to dump me? I got the ice cream, but is it going to melt? Right? Or is someone going to take it off me? You know, 2 little granddaughters, there's always this anxiety for one of them, the younger one. Is the big sister going to take it off me? Right? So there's anxiety, right? Am I going to get it? All kinds of effort and hardship involved to get it, like I was describing for the surfer who's got to go and try and catch the waves, you know. There's all this effort involved. There's effort involved in everything. To achieve anything in life, you've got to put out effort and energy, right? So then there's the anxiety, will I get it? Then it's like, oh, I've got it. Great, isn't this awesome? Wow, it's fantastic. Look at me, how great I am. I've got it. And it's like, am I going to lose it? And then, of course, we lose everything. We lose everything. Either we lose it now or we lose it later. And we lose absolutely everything at the time of death. I have to leave it all behind. Everything. All these things that I spent my whole life trying to achieve and attain and get. At the end of life, I leave it all behind, everything. Right? I've struggled to attain property, or I struggled to attain bank balances, or I struggled to get myself into good job, and all of this, live in a nice house, but I lose all of it. And there's a lamentation, I've lost it. And underlying it all is the fear of death, the shadow of death. So this whole struggle for existence in the material world, is all about seeking pleasure. So these, at the time, they're a source of misery even at the time of enjoyment. They're difficult to attain, to gain, because they're fleeting and fickle. And they're difficult to maintain because they are wanton and frivolous. And they are difficult to sustain due to competition, jealousy, reprisals, etc. When pleasures are first enjoyed, they give an acute illusion of happiness. But due to indomitable time, when such pleasures come to an end, as they all must, they are cause of acute misery. So, the wise man, the Buddha, so never not, Teshu, in those in them, Ramate, takes delight, he's content, he's delighted, he rejoices. Buddha, the intelligent, the wise man, the man of intelligence. He never takes delight in these temporary material sense enjoyment. He's experiencing the happiness within, so he never takes pleasure in these external material sense enjoyment. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribo, Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Thank you so much.